On June 12, 1994, Ron Goldman was working at a restaurant in L.A. called Mezzaluna. Nicole Brown Simpson and her family went to the restaurant that day. Ron was friends with Nicole, but was not their waiter. Later that night, Nicole's mother phoned the restaurant about a pair of glasses that were left behind. They were placed in an envelope, and Ron brought them to Nicole's home after he finished work. That night, Ron and Nicole were brutally murdered. Nicole's estranged husband, O.J. Simpson, was charged with the double murder. It was the trial the nation watched. It was the trial that made Court TV a household name. And now the man who was found not guilty by the criminal jury and found liable for the wrongful deaths by a civil jury has died. O.J. Simpson passed away today at the age of 76. And tonight, we will take a look at the impact of O.J.'s death and the murders on the families of the victims. We will examine the shocking verdict and look at reaction from around the world as we investigate the life and death of O.J. Simpson. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Wasn't expecting to be doing this story tonight. Really a strange day. A really strange day. I've been in television news and court TV for years, and when someone passes away, there's the normal reaction that you have, usually regardless of who they were or what happened and what the circumstances were. And you know what that normal reaction is for someone that died. And this is different. This just has a different feeling. I think it's because of what happened, the trial, working, having a career at Court TV, and speaking with so many victims through the years. It's just different, and it's very unusual because of O.J. Simpson, who he was before the murders, who he was at the trial, and who he became after all of it. It's a different feeling, and I'm still processing all of this tonight. But I think the place you have to start on this day is to recall that what happened to Nicole and Ron was a rage-fueled attack. This was personal, this was brutal, this was violent. And that's how their lives ended. And we at Court TV, me as someone who's worked here a long time and been a prosecutor and am a lawyer and all of that, I understand that according to the criminal trial and the verdict, O.J. Simpson was presumptively innocent, right? The verdict is not guilty. Every defendant is presumed innocent. So if you're found not guilty and it's not proven to that jury, then you are presumptively innocent. But that doesn't make you factually innocent. And a civil jury looked at this case, looked at even more evidence. O.J. Simpson was compelled to testify. And the burden of proof was lower, yes, obviously in a civil case. But there, a jury determined that he took the lives of Ron and Nicole. So that's why you can't dismiss that. That part can't be dismissed. We can't focus that, oh, just not guilty. You have to look at the whole picture. But what I always look to here on this program is the truth. What is the truth of what happened? The one part of this case that when anyone talks about this trial that comes to my mind is Ron's father, Fred Goldman. And the moment that those words were uttered and his reaction, and you could see and feel his pain throughout the trial. But in that moment, that the camera swooned over to Ron Goldman as he had to hear those words. And he's suffered ever since. I mean, he suffered ever since the loss of his son, obviously. But this was the gut punch. This was the gut punch after losing your son. And you don't get over that. And that's why in every verdict since, and in covering Court TV, I always think about victims' families because of that man and that image and that moment and what they are seeking inside of a courtroom. Their loved one never comes back. but at a minimum, what they can get is some sense of justice, and when they don't get it, it is the gut punch that Fred Goldman got. O.J. Simpson went to prison. Let's not forget, 9 years in prison. Why did he go to prison? Because of that civil case. Because of that civil judgment against him. It started at $33 million and with interest became astronomical. You see, O.J. Simpson went to prison because of that robbery at the hotel, that stupid case in the hotel where he's going after his own memorabilia that was stolen from him. But he couldn't get the police, or he couldn't go into a civil court to retrieve the stuff that was stolen from him, because if he did, it would have been seized as part of the judgment. So the only way O.J. Simpson, because of that civil judgment, was going to get his memorabilia back was he'd have to use force and commit a crime, which is what he did. So he was punished 9 years in prison for that. But the reason he had to do that, in his mind, was because there was no legal way using the system to retrieve his stuff, because it would have been seized as an asset as part of the civil judgment. So that, I hope everyone understands that the civil case had an impact on O.J. Simpson, and it really put him in prison for 9 years. Finally, here in my open, I mean, the second thing that we think about tonight, you know, someone died. O.J. Simpson died. But I think everyone's first thought, not everyone, but many people's first thoughts were, well, let's hope that Ron and Nicole can rest in peace now. Right? That they can rest in peace. You know, the family's not going to recover. It's not making them feel any better necessarily. I want to read for you Fred Goldman's statement, right? Fred Goldman, again, who got the gut punch when that verdict was read inside the courtroom. What he told People magazine today after the death of O.J. Simpson. Reminder for us how long Ron has been gone, how long we have missed him, and nothing more than that. This is heartbreaking, right? That is the only thing that is important today. It is the pain from then until now. There is nothing today that is more important than the loss of my son and the loss of Nicole. And when I think about, personally, for me, the significance of this case and this trial was, for the first time in a big way, really understanding what happens to murder victims' families and how they try to recover from this, which is impossible. Kim Goldman joined me here at Court TV in studio back in 2019 to talk about being a victim.
Sometimes we forget how much deeper it can go, and the collateral damage. I think that, you know, a lot of people think that once you turn the TV off that it's done. It stays with you forever. I mean, there's no other way around it, and you figure out a way to move within it. And just because it was my brother or, you know, Nicole's family that suffered a loss, the people that are part of it on the periphery also have to figure out a way to move within it.
It's difficult. It's so difficult. What I want to do now is play for you so you understand, and we go back, we understand what happened, the crime that was committed, and everything that led up to that trial that you watched on Court TV so many years ago. Let's take a look.
From the beginning, it is referred to as the trial of the century. The people's case? O.J. Simpson killed his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, and Ron Goldman. The timeline works. The evidence is clear. The defense? Simpson has been framed. Investigators were incompetent, biased, and rushed to judgment in a way that underscores a history of systemic problems within the LAPD. But before there are attorneys, before any courtroom moments, and before any of the nonstop news coverage, there's a story of murder. 2 victims brutally killed on the night of June 12, 1994. Their bodies are discovered on the walkway leading up to Nicole's condo in Brentwood.
The crime itself was about as horrific as you can imagine.
There was so much blood. You have to remember that Nicole was nearly decapitated and bled out on the sidewalk. Ron was stabbed a couple of dozen times, and there was lots of blood. And it was a very small area, and there were two little kids, her little kids, sleeping upstairs.
The brutal murders occur in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, a safe place where wealthy people live, with manicured lawns and a sense of security and quiet.
Where it happened in Brentwood was a very safe community. I mean, you don't expect anything like that to happen there. People always say, that never happens here. That's what people would say about Brentwood.
During that June night, while watching the 10 o'clock news, one of Nicole's neighbors hears a barking dog wailing as if sounding an alarm. Another neighbor decides to take the lost dog for a walk and is led to the bodies of Nicole and Ron. During that same night of June 12th, O.J. Simpson is picked up by a limo at his home on Rockingham Avenue. He takes the red-eye to Chicago for a business trip. Shortly after he arrives, the LAPD calls O.J. and tells him that Nicole has been killed and asks him to come back. They had seen a trail of blood at his house, and when they learn that Simpson is unharmed, they suspect he may have been involved in the murders. He returns to L.A. immediately, the police waiting for him at his home.
He was briefly handcuffed when he was talking to police, and a camera crew that had made their way around to the other part of the property captured it.
Meanwhile, the families of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman are coming to grips with the sudden and awful loss of their loved ones.
First and foremost, Nicole was involved in her children's lives. Nicole was like a hands-on mom.
She looked glamorous. She was beautiful. She was vibrant. She was full of life.
Ron was amazing. From practically the day he was born, always an amazing young man. Always kind, always thoughtful. He was Kim's brother and best friend forever.
My brother was coming into his own at 25 years old. The closeness that we shared was undeniable, and that feeling of knowing that you always have someone that has your back. And that didn't change the older we got, and obviously the last act of his life proved that my brother and his soul was a protector.
Today, my office filed murder charges against O.J. Simpson.
Simpson agrees to turn himself in, but he never shows.
When he didn't show up, and then Robert Kardashian, his friend, reads this letter.
I think of my life and feel I've done most of the right things. So why do I end up like this? I can't go on.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
It's like when the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up, or when the Twin Towers were hit. You know where you were when that happened. It wasn't a chase in a traditional sense. It was O.J. Simpson reportedly in the back seat of a Bronco with a gun to his head, and you'd see people lining the overpasses. Go, O.J., go, that type of thing, homemade signs. Because at this point, O.J. Simpson was still beloved, right? Nobody could believe that he would be a killer. It just didn't seem to make sense.
Mr. Simpson is a wanted murder suspect, 2 counts of murder, a terrible crime.
O.J., wherever you are, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your children, please surrender immediately.
Simpson eventually surrenders to police and is taken into custody. At the time of his arrest, O.J. Simpson is 46 years old, a legendary Heisman Trophy winner, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a star with movie and TV fame. He has pioneered American advertising as one of the first African Americans to be a spokesperson for a major company. But now, he's a celebrity behind bars. When they meet in 1977, 30-year-old O.J. is married and Nicole is just 18 years old. They have 2 children during their 7-year marriage.
They were very much in love. I mean, they loved each other. They were husband, wife. They did, they traveled together. It was, for a long time, a very good family unit.
But what looks like an ideal marriage is actually a toxic relationship filled with violence.
Nicole, you still on the line? Yeah. You think he's still gonna hit you? I don't know. He's gonna leave. He just said that. He just said he ain't leaving.
He looked me in the eye and he said, "How can anybody think I'm guilty?" And I said, "OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty."
And the voice you heard there, that was from OJ 25, incredible series produced here at Court TV. The voice you heard, Roger Cossack, is now joining us from Los Angeles. Former deputy DA, former Pepperdine Law School professor. Of course, you know him from television. Someone who knows more about this case than anyone I know. Roger, great to see you. Thank you so much. I know everybody in the world's calling you today.
Vinny, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
So when you first heard this news today, what was the first thing that sort of popped into your mind?
Well, I just couldn't believe that this had happened. I knew that Simpson had cancer, but I had no idea how serious it was, or that his death would be imminent. He had told people that he had cancer, but still, of course, it brought back all those memories of when we first met, of course, doing the Simpson case, and all of the trial and everything that happened, and of course the terrible, terrible murders of Nicole and Ron, and it all came back to me, and I had to sit down for a second and think about it. I mean, listen, it changed my life, and it also, I think, in some ways, changed the way people, in many ways, changed the way people looked at the criminal justice system in America.
I agree with you 10,000% on that. So, by way of background, like, what was your connection to the case? Because you're out in LA at that time, right?
I was practicing law in LA, and I knew the lawyers. I knew Robert Shapiro. I knew him from as an undergraduate in college. I knew Johnny Cochran because I was practicing criminal defense work, and he was a very prominent lawyer, and I knew him. And that my connection is that I was a California lawyer who knew California law. And I was called by the New York Times by a reporter who had seen some cases that I had done some work on, and called me and asked me for a few quotes. And that's what happened. And the next thing I know is I started getting calls to come in and talk on television. And that's how it all got started with me, but I had a very close connection because I knew Shapiro and Cochran, pretty well, and Judge Ito. So, I was able to talk to them and get things that perhaps others didn't. And, next thing I knew, I had a full-time job.
I want to go back to the trial. I want to show you 2 moments from the trial, and I want to get your analysis, because for many people, myself included, the verdict was shocking to me. But looking back now at some of this, it may not be as shocking to me. I want to play 2 moments. We begin first with the one that everyone talks about. Here's Johnny Cochran.
O.J. Simpson in a knit cap from 2 blocks away is still O.J. Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Okay, so a lot of people remember and talk about that, but I want to play one other moment from Mark Furman and his testimony. Let's watch this.
Detective Furman, did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case?
I assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
Okay, which of those 2 moments do you think are more important in what happened in this trial?
So first of all, that's a great question, Vinny, of course. But let me just start off by telling your viewers that there was a conviction in the O.J. Simpson trial, and that conviction was Mark Fuhrman, the only one who ever got convicted out of all of the events. Remember, he got convicted of perjury. So the irony is that, of course, the cop got convicted. I have always said, and I differentiate between what I think happened and what happened with the verdict. They don't ask the jury whether or not whether he did it. They don't. The question to the jury is, okay, do you think Simpson did it or not? They ask the jury, did the prosecution prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, what's reasonable doubt? I'm a reasonable person, so I would say my doubt is reasonable. You're a reasonable person. You would say yours is, and so would vary. So that's why you have 12 on the jury, and it's 12 different people, and we ask them all to reach over their reasonable doubt. But in this case, it's easy to say, yeah, they should have tried this case in Santa Monica. They'd have got a different verdict. They tried it downtown. It was a loaded jury. It was a prejudiced jury, whatever it may be. But there were some problems with this case, Vinny. There were some problems. First of all, the Marcia Clark timeline of when this crime was committed and how he got from the scene of the crime to the airport never added up. And you remember, I don't know if people remember, I of course do, there were these two young people who were out on a date and heard the dog crying. And that's what Marcia Clark said, well, that's when the murder must have happened, when the dog was crying. But truthfully, who the heck knows why the dog was crying? And so that was an issue. The timeline just never added up. The DNA, which everybody thought was definitive evidence, and it is definitive evidence, but there were problems with how that DNA was collected. And the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. And so if you doubt that DNA, then it's no good. And finally, this was a jury that in large part was made up of African Americans. And one of the lead police officers, as I said, Mark Fuhrman, is a man who lied on the witness stand. And what did he lie about? He lied, among other things, how many times he had said the N-word. Now, if I'm an African American and I'm sitting on that jury, believe me, I'm not going to believe one word of what that guy says. So he's the guy that found the glove. And it's an integral part of what this case is all about. So I thought that the prosecution's case was flawed. Now, if you ask me what I think, did OJ do it? I'll give you an answer, a personal answer. But do I think that there were some issues that could have caused problems with that jury? And we'll never know exactly why that jury came to this verdict. People put, race and other things in there. But I'm a lawyer, and I look at this thing try to at least strictly neutral. And I always said there were some issues in that case that were just never resolved for the prosecution.
And that's why Roger Cossack lived up to the billing tonight, made it super clear. Roger, great to see you. Thank you so much. I know everyone wants to talk to you, so we'll let you go, but hopefully we'll see you again really, really soon. Have a great day, Roger. All right, folks, we've got much more to get to. Much more of this, plus coming up next hour. In Boise, Idaho, day 2 of the Doomsday Prophet triple murder death penalty trial. Chad Daybell accused of murdering his wife and his new wife's children. We have a live report from the courthouse.
After they excavated and took the dirt off the plastic, it revealed what appeared to be a small body wrapped in black plastic with duct tape around it.
We are underway in the trial of Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Logan, I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday Prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Jury
in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
Still, when I watch this, when I watch, there's the gut punch for Fred Goldman. That's the gut punch. Literally, he's like keeling over. Can't believe it. But you know who else can't believe what just happened? If you watch O.J. Simpson and everyone around him, they couldn't believe it either. The verdict. You know, looking back, when you see the lead detective take the fifth when asked if he planted evidence, well, you look back on it and you say, you put that fact in any case on, you know, that you watch here on court TV. If you have the lead investigator with the key piece of evidence taking the fifth when asked if you planted evidence, you're going to lose. The prosecution's going to lose. I don't think it matters who's in the jury at that point. But what a big story today. O.J. Simpson passed away, cancer. Joining me tonight in Los Angeles, California, entertainment reporter, host of Kinsey's LA Diaries on Talk TV, Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, great to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. You know, this was O.J. Simpson was a celebrity. He was an incredible athlete, but he was like Mr. LA, Mr. USC. Then lived in LA afterwards. Obviously, the murders happened in LA as well. What's the reaction that you're seeing and hearing out in LA today?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The golden boy, it's almost as if, I mean, he really was truly one of the first athletes that transitioned seamlessly into pop culture. All of a sudden, he's not just a football player. He's a Hurt spokesperson. He's that handsome guy on TV and in movies. So LA was hit hard by that trial, as you know. And I do think that they're hit hard by his death, not necessarily remembering him for the movies or, you know, some of his more charming qualities, but remembering him ultimately for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
You know, the thing about, and I look at O.J. Simpson, there's like 3 of him, right? There's the first O.J. Simpson, who is everyone loved him. Yeah, I met him once at Court TV. He came in. It was 2004. It had been 10 years. And he was doing his first live television interview, and I was sort of the backup in case he walked out in the middle of the interview. I would sit down with our incredible anchor, Catherine Cryer. But he sat there for the hour. And I'm walking past the green room, and he recognized me. And the reason he recognized me was because he was obsessed with Court TV after the trial. He would watch other trials. And anytime anyone mentioned something about the trial, he would call. And it seemed like he continued that, you know, in his later years when Twitter, as soon as he got a Twitter account when he got out of prison, he was tweeting about everything.
Right. Well, and don't forget, there was that blow-up interview that happened when Nicole's sister was on Fox talking to Shepard Smith. O.J. Simpson just happened to be watching, called in, and started fighting with Shepard Smith and Nicole's sister, accused Nicole's sister of wanting to sleep with him live on national television. So he was I think he was very invested in crime and true crime, and very invested not only in himself, obviously, but invested in the process of law and order after experiencing something as chaotic as he did.
Yeah, he became sort of an expert, which was really fascinating. I want to put up on the screen Caitlyn Jenner reacting today on Twitter. Good riddance. Good riddance is all Caitlyn had to say. You know, there have been recent TV movies, and in one of them, you know, they really focused on the Kardashian aspect of all this because there was a Kardashian connection. Like, that was O.J.'s first attorney, was the Kardashian. Have we heard anything from Kardashians today?
We haven't heard anything from the Kardashians, but you're absolutely right. I mean, so many people in Hollywood today have acknowledged the fact that O.J. really started the reality TV train. They got thousands of letters, these stations, these TV stations, local stations, complaining that people had been cut off from their soap operas. And then those people that typically watch soap operas actually sat back and started watching this trial, became obsessed, and were devastated when it was over. Marcia Clark actually said, who's also commented today and said she sent her condolences to OJ's family. But she said people would walk up to her after the trial and say to her, "I loved your show." Assuming, because it felt like it was a show and it didn't feel like it was a real trial, and you had all of these different characters. And we saw that when you watch that FX show, that scripted drama with Cuba Gooding Jr., all of the craziest moments that feel like it's just written for TV, those moments really happened,
Actually happened.
Yes, I mean, it was perfect for TV.
Nothing else like it. Kenzie Schofield, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got more to get to when we come back. Joining us live, Kato Kaelin. How is he feeling today? What emotions is he going through? We'll speak with Kato live when we return.
I've been asked to comment on the death of O.J. Simpson. Foremost, I'd like to express my condolences to the children, to Sydney and to Justin, to Jason and Arnell. They lost their father, and that is never easy. I wish to express my love and compassion to the Goldmans, to Fred and to Kim. I hope you find closure. And finally, to the family of the beautiful Nicole Brown Simpson. May we always cherish her memories. Nicole was a beacon of light that burned bright. May we never forget her.
So incredibly well stated. That was Kato Kaelin posting that on X today and other social media spots. Again, this was someone who was in the middle of it all. And joining us now is our special guest, that man who was staying in O.J. Simpson's guest house at the time of the murders, testified at the trial. Kato Kaelin is with us. Kato, thank you so much for joining us. I know everyone is calling you. Everyone wants to speak to you, so we really appreciate your time tonight. I'm just an anchor. I'm just an anchor at Court TV, and I have these really strange emotions today that it is really unusual for me. You're in the middle of all of this. What are you feeling today?
Well, first of all, I sort of feel like I was born from Court TV because you ran the trial for every day. And from your last guest, I really was a soap opera character. I was Kato. I wasn't a real person to many people. But when I woke up this morning and I saw at least 98 messages and they were just starting, I immediately didn't know anything what was happening, but I immediately thought death. And then I saw the message of what happened, and I sat down, and because I had so many people wanting to talk to me, I thought it best if I just post something which you just ran. And it really is from the heart. It really is, and I always wondered if O.J. Simpson on his deathbed had a penance, if he said a penance. I know he had mentioned in other interviews he always believed in heaven, and I don't know if he got there or not. I've stated in many interviews I think he's a guilty person, but my condolences really do go to the kids, Sydney and Justin, who just were kids when I was there, Arnell and Jason, and losing a father, it's not easy. But my compassion and everything else would really go to Fred and Kim, the Goldmans, for losing the son and a brother. And like I said, Nicole really was a beacon of light, bright, fun, and we can't forget that memory, because it's really about two people that lost their lives in the peak of their youth, really, and had so much to live for. And so that's sort of encapsulated everything in that 30 years right here on your show now.
How well did you know Nicole? How much time did you interact? You're living, with OJ at the time, and I know they had issues, obviously, in their relationship, but they had children together as well. Right. How much did you see her, get to know her, and how much did you see her and OJ together?
Yeah, I was closer to Nicole. I was at Nicole's Gretna Green estate. That's where she lived before Bundy. I was there for 6.5 months, 6.5 at OJ's. So I was sort of like the room with the view. I saw everything that was going on with the people in Brentwood and with them, both of them. And you know, I saw them in arguments. I never saw anything violence or any hitting, but I always go back to my childhood of growing up with a large family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I said, these people they have everything. They got money, they're beautiful kids, and yet there's fighting and they can't make it work. And I just remember my mom and dad rarely fighting, but when they did, my dad would just kiss mom and it would be over. And I didn't see that with them, and it's unfortunate. But I just think it's from being from simple background that I was from. And I try to always say, why don't you guys ever try to do that? So, anyways, we are where we are today.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, O.J. Simpson, like, there's a generation that didn't know about O.J. Simpson before this date. Like, before that one day, this guy had it all, the huge personality, everyone loved him, sports fans, and you watched him in the commercials, and he just had that aura about him of celebrity and warmth, and, you know, he was that type of guy, which is what really, I think, struck a lot of us. Like, this was like out of left field for those of us who didn't know about the problems he was having with Nicole.
Well, Vinny, you're exactly right. And he was adulated by people. He had that charisma you're talking about, but he also had the thing where you wanted to make sure everybody would love him and shake. So he loved the public persona of himself. They didn't know the private. They just know the public persona. And I don't think he could live with that, people not liking that and finding out that his private life, they would not have liked that O.J. Simpson.
Which is probably why he wrote that letter and took that Bronco ride and was going to take his life until he was talked out of it. He was convinced not to do that. Looking back now, from the view where we are now, what do you think is the biggest misperception of you know, everything that happened, all that transpired? What is the biggest public misperception about this story?
Well, you know, the story is divided up into so many elements of different perceptions of possible corruption, of TVs in a courtroom, of playing to cameras. You know, Vinny, like I said, I had this somewhat humble background coming from Milwaukee, and I had never been in a courtroom in my entire life, not even a parking ticket, until I got into the trial at age 34, and then I was there for a double homicide. And I think, if I could speak about a misconception about me, I was called everything from liar to freeloader to dummy to a pariah to an assassin's target even. But that was one of the misconceptions. The other misconceptions were, I thought it was sort of, they made the trial more entertainment, and I saw jurors waving to O.J. So certain things weren't caught on camera, and I was like, is this a show? So they did a TV show, the Ryan Murphy Show, which was brought up before. And if that's not, and that's entertainment. People love trials. People love to see people in worse pain than they have. And I've always said that everybody wants to see more people in trouble. That's why they want to watch it. And that's why these shows got so many Emmys. And I guess crime does pay.
In a certain respect. What about your reaction to the verdict? Where were you when the verdict was read, and were you prepared for what that jury said?
Well, while the trial went on for almost a year, I went up and down with emotions of where it was going to go, what was they thinking. But towards the end, I said that he is going to be not guilty. I think he is guilty, in my opinion. I always thought he's guilty when it got later in the trial. And I was sitting at the Century Plaza Hotel, Century City, California, and sitting next to me was Barbara Walters. And off camera, after they came out with the verdict, I said they made a mistake. And they showed a split screen of white and black making reactions. And the media, from that moment, made such a divide in America, because it was repetition. They showed it over and over. And that just put Los Angeles backwards many, many years. And now it's as bad, Vinny, now with the George Floyd situation and everything that comes out with media and running certain stories. And it just keeps going back and back, and we can never have that unity. At least living in Los Angeles, I see that all the time. I see crime. I see people being able to shoplift and run out of a store and not be convicted. I see DAs not convicting criminals, and it's the wrong way to do it. It's just the wrong way, Vinny, and it's not going to get better until there's more education and until we start convicting criminals.
So we have just about a minute left here, Kato, and I know, again, you're being pulled in a million directions today. O.J. Simpson, like, have you had any, after this verdict, did you ever have contact with O.J. Simpson? Did you ever have contact with any member of his family? Did you have contact with anyone from Ron's family, Nicole's family? What happened after that moment in terms of your life and interacting with these people?
Right, yes, I had contact with Fred Goldman and Kim Goldman. I've done Kim's podcast, and I shared a story with her. I don't know if we have time for it, but the Browns, I've reached out to Tanya on Facebook. We follow each other. As far as the OJ side of the family, no, not at all. I always thought that it's best to leave that behind. Vinny, we don't know each other, but my spirit is really, I hate the dark. I love living in the light and paying things forward, and I'm all about that. So I try not to look at the past. And so bringing this up, 30 years coming up, it's very cathartic for me. And it's I'm embracing it. It's the blueprint of my life to take it on. And for whatever reason, that was my blueprint, and I've dealt with it. People can make a judgment on me, of what they want to think, good or bad. But it's been so much more positive in my life. And I think it's because of my Wisconsin upbringing, believe it or not, and that America's Dairyland, and cream does always rise to the top, I could say. But as far as all the contact, no. I did see OJ one time, though, and that was after I did the first hour of a deposition where I was very negative on him. I ended up going to the men's room, and he was there after I said all these terrible things, and I was scared out of my mind, and he just said hey to me in the bathroom, and I kind of just took off.
Kato Kaelin, nice to see you tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts and insight tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.